Well, hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome to Play for Time. It's a show where we connect and try to help you figure out how to live your life as we age, how to get out, explore, engage. Kerry, you could do a better job of this. How are you? Talk to me about our time playing today.
You are so funny. So, first of all, hello, everybody. He's Chris Brogan, and I'm Kerry O'Shea Gorgone, and this is Play for Time, the show about staying engaged with life as you age. Today, we're going to talk about talking to strangers because it seems like a lost art. I've noticed this from my own kids, but generally, people of the younger generation have a lot of trouble sometimes having conversations with people they do not already know. And since a whole lot of the people we encounter in our day to day lives are people we don't already know, that seems like a problem. Because there was a time when chatting with people that you didn't know, either because you had to pick up the phone for your household and not just you, or because you ventured out to go, grocery shopping or something, was very common. So we're going to talk about why that matters and how continuing to kind of exercise that talking to strangers muscle keeps you young.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, especially one thing people don't know about me, especially because they've maybe seen me at a keynote speech or something like that, is they think this guy is an extrovert because he can go on stage, he can talk to thousands of people. I am not. I am an introvert. And when I'm in a situation like that, when I'm in an environment where the whole room is like, this guy here is Chris Brogan, I'm great. Like I can walk off that stage and be like, hello, mortals. It is me, the man from the stage. But if I am wandering into a place as a stranger and no one has a sense of who I am or my credentials, forget it. It's really hard. But I was trying to think about this for this episode and us talking, and I was thinking, there are different ways to get into it, right? There's, how does one make small talk? How does one break the ice and all that? You, because I've been around you for so long, I think it's almost always with you the notion of let's start with something kind of funny or a joke or a sideways edge in. How do you break the ice? How do you start the conversation going?
I learned this. I would love to say I learned it from my dad or something, but really it was Andrea, who's a good friend of mine who passed away about 5 years ago. But she would compliment people first time out, not like in an insincere way, a sincere compliment. She would find something that she liked about someone, whether it was what they were doing, what they were wearing, their hair, anything at all. And she would open the conversation that way. So her first conversation opener with me was I had a backpack because I was in law school and it was stuffed with like highlighters and pens and pencils just because I was like, I don't know where else to put them. Pff, whole box of pens goes in there. And she sat in front of me at an event and was like, I've read that people who carry lots and lots of pens and pencils are more intelligent. And I said, that sounds like bullshit. And so that's like what got the conversation going for us. But I learned that from her. So that's usually how I'll open the conversation if it's possible to do. Otherwise, I will ask how someone is. Like if there's nothing I can see, or it would be like if the situation makes it weird to like compliment someone right out of the gate, like they're at work. So if they're working, it's a little weird to like sometimes to compliment people because it's like the power dynamic or something, or the service dynamic makes it weird. So I'll just ask how they are, like how they really are. And then I will listen to the answer and respond accordingly. Because I think a lot of people just go, great, I'll have a medium iced coffee. And that's that.
I think, well, I'm going to talk first, to Joanne. Joanne said, I've always talked to strangers. As a former military brat, I was required to rebuild networks all the time. Leslie says, I love talking to strangers. I've met so many. That is Leslie through and through. But, and also, hi, Chloe. Um, my method, if I absolutely don't know somebody, is I will often try to make a joke. And usually times I'll try to make it sort of non sequitur and weird, like I'll wander and go, what are we all even doing here? And, people will kind of giggle. I think if you disarm a little bit of that tension of talking to strangers and start to build that we're all in the same side kind of experience, I think people react to that rather well. That doesn't work in all settings. Like you said, at work, there's a whole different kind of way you do it. But at events, I definitely, because my work's events now, at events, I definitely come in and just say weird stuff. I would say that but I'm curious to know, like out in the wild, like when you're at a waiting room or when you are somewhere and you don't have to talk to that person, but you're going to talk to that person because there's just that amount of tension. What's your go-to then? Is it the same, or what do you think?
Depends on the situation. So the reason that our thumbnail has a nice gentleman named Willie on it is because I went into a blood lab super early in the morning, which, you try to do because you want to get there before it gets too busy and you want to get the heck out, right? So nobody wants to be there. Very unfun. And there was someone sitting like they were to the left of the window that you have to approach to register. So like I was going to pass within, I don't know, like a foot and a half, 2 feet of them. It felt weird to not acknowledge them. So I looked him in the eye and just said, "Good morning." And he said, "God bless you, sweetheart. Nobody talks to strangers anymore. Good morning. Nobody ever says that. I'm Willie, blah, blah, blah." And we started talking. So I register for my thing and I sit with him and spend the whole time hearing his story, which was pretty incredible. He was like a fitness guy who had won a title in New Jersey or something in the 60s, like a fitness competition title. And he was a black man, and he talked about everything from the challenges of excelling in that field as a black man to losing his son later on in life and stuff. But he was so positive throughout. He was just like, I just keep going. I just got love in my heart for everybody. And it was really nice that early in the morning in kind of a crummy situation, stuck waiting in a waiting room, to have that conversation. And I just thought, if I'd just been staring at my phone like, thanks, but I'm not interested in talking, I would have missed that. So to me, that's all it took. So it depends. Sometimes it's as simple as good morning. Other times, if there's something obvious kind of going on, like, I don't know, the elevator is making a very scary sound and you're all trapped in there, I just say the thing, like everybody's thinking. Like, gosh, I wish I hadn't had those extra chitlins because I think we're all about to plummet to the bottom of this shaft. Something like that.
That's one. That's a way to get them going. I was thinking about the fact that one of my mechanisms that I love a lot is to compliment people. So similar to what Andrea did, but not exactly compliment as much as give them an opportunity to talk about the thing that they likely want to talk about. Um, for instance, you wander in and you see somebody who is wearing a shirt from a 1998 Nine Inch Nails concert, and that person wants anyone to say, "Oh my gosh, I also love Nine Inch Nails." You know what I mean? Because it's not like the one from last week, which you could also, intuit they like the event, but it's like an old schooly one, so they've been in it for a while or something. Classic cars. It took me, you and I have gone and filmed and photographed all kinds of classic car shows. And I usually just go there and get the shot and get the shot and get the shot. And when I post the photos, people will say, "Oh my gosh, I had a 1967 Mercury." And they talk about it. A week or so ago at the Dunkin' Donuts, when you were going to pick up stuff for your family, I jumped out of the car kind of while it was rolling and said, "Hey, man with a car right there." And we talked about his car. And it turned out to be rather a fun conversation. I learned a lot. By the way, this one says, "I played pickleball, and it definitely forces you to talk to strangers if you want to play with different people." Yeah, that makes total sense. And to me, one way that's interesting. Hi, Jonathan. By the way, congratulations. Oh, it's not right beside me. It's been right beside me most of the last many days. His new book. I don't know where it is. Things
Under your
like
pillow.
pickleball. It could be. Things like pickleball are one of those situations where that becomes the campfire, the thing we have gathered around, and it sort of gives you that experience of having that reason to talk. Are there scenarios that you've found yourself in that are kind of like that as well?
Things that are like discussion prompts, kind of. So let me think. I mean, it can be anything. So I have a purse that I use when I travel, and it's a little BB-8 purse. So it's like white and has orange handles and has kind of like his styling on it. So that's a conversation starter. If I carry that, I know someone's going to say something. I also have a rainbow sweater that looks super 80s. It's like, I mean, by rainbow, I mean it has a rainbow on it. It's not like the whole thing is rainbow, but it's navy with just like a stripe of rainbow across it. And somebody will always say something about it. Usually it's, "Oh my gosh, I had that exact sweater when I was in high school and I loved it." So yeah, I have a few conversation starters like that. If you carried that book, that would be a conversation starter.
I ran into, God bless him and I love him. I ran into Warren Whitlock, and the first time I ever ran into him, he was walking down a hallway holding his book up by his face. And I said, "What are you doing right now?" And he said, "Well, I just want to have people put the face to the book because some people have read this book and they like it." I said, "Don't do that. John Harrison is in the audience, and he wrote a book, If Video Games Have Taught Me Anything, and it's lessons from video games. And I really love the book, not just because I am in it, although I am definitely in it, page 36 and 37, because I talk a lot, which, by the way, I just want to say puts me right beside Jack Black, who is a lot more brief than I was. And I'm also on page 38. And then Jack Black and Alton Brown. Now, this is for alphabetical reasons, but thank you, John Harrison, because I could say I've shared book stage with these people. Our goat himself says, I still do. You two are old friends, though. Hey, good to see you. It's been such a long time that we've hung out. Leslie says, definitely situational. I had a lovely chat with a tall gentleman in the grocery store the other night who helped me with a top shelf item. Leslie, by the way, is not a tall gentleman. She's a different size. Struck up a conversation with a woman wearing a funny t-shirt, things like that. So I think that makes sense too. I mean, obviously there's different ways to get it going. Video games, by the way, if ever you make a kind of random, like you said, BB-8, and I thought you should maybe also have referenced from the Star Wars universe, because maybe people don't know. But if you know in genre interesting stuff, or like kind of insider language, I think that becomes an absolute magic trick, don't you?
Yeah, of course, because we're all looking for someone else who likes our weird thing, and when we find someone, it lights us up inside. So I was wearing a Johnny Cupcakes hoodie. He's like a t-shirt designer, or fashion designer in Boston. And I had one of his hoodies on, like, I don't know, 10 years ago at South by Southwest. And I hear this 20 something kid from across the room go, Johnny Cupcakes, nice. So, like, she likes my thing. She has my thing. Of course, I was like, this kid likes my thing. So it felt like a thing that we shared, like right off the bat.
I want to double down on that one, because I was 2 or 3 weeks ago, could have been a month, could have been last year, I don't know. I was some number of weeks ago, I was at an investors event. It was startups from the Harvard Business School and a bunch of investment people sitting there kind of judging whether or not they're going to invest in them. I had no reason to be there. I have nothing to do with Harvard. I am not an investor at present. So I was just in the room to kind of enjoy things. When I wear sweaters, like a lot of people, I tend to wear maybe a t-shirt underneath. And I happened to be wearing a Johnny Cupcake t-shirt underneath, wherein which the little cupcake skull and crossbones was on the little tiny label at the bottom of the shirt. So this guy, for reasons I don't know, is looking pretty close to the belly area and saw my little Johnny Cupcake logo. And as we're crossing towards each other, like that means he must have taken a very full account of me. He goes, "Oh, you like Johnny Cupcake?" And I look down at my, very simple sweater, and I'm like, I do. And I'm trying to put it together. And he like points down, and I'm like, this is weird. And yet we had that to talk about. So it happens. By the way, so playing video games at the arcade used to be a very social activity. Also a chance for fisticuffs. Because, if you put your quarters down and there was suddenly some kind of a fight in, order of operations, you could get into a brawl. Jonathan says, inside joke shirts getting recognized in public are awesome. I just saw one, and I won't put it up because I'll have to go find it. It was like the Oregon Trail graphics, but it was from LV-426, which is the Aliens second movie. And it was a bunch of xenomorphs attacking the covered wagon. So I think that's a really cool inside joke shirt.
That's kind of amazing. I had one that had Kiefer Sutherland from Lost Boys on it, in which he plays a vampire. So he has this like weird, I don't know, bleach blonde mullet or something, but you could hardly see it because it's so stylized. But on top of it, the text said, in the 24 show font, it said 24-hour Jack Bauer. And I would get comments on that. And I was like, this person gets all my weird, because it was like an 80s horror movie slapped on top of what was a pretty popular TV show. And I was like, did they get this? They get me.
You and I work with AI a lot in a given day. You and I, like yesterday, you were solving some big legal thing. I've been putting together some code stuff. We muck with the AI. I saw something recently that said that there is a huge, huge, huge push for the analog world. So between social scrolling, between AI slop consumption on platforms like Sora, and the whole everything post-pandemic where we all had to live in our little bubbles and talk to everybody through the glass, in-person, analog, offline, notebook filling in kind of activities are getting to be hot. I feel like the stranger trend, if it were, is going to come back. I think getting the opportunity to practice and talk about social things is going to come back. So I'm thinking about that. And I'm also thinking about the fact that our kids who lived in the pandemic and went to school in the pandemic are ill-equipped for what comes next. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know if talking to strangers is going to come back because I've been in an Uber with kids all in there between the ages of like 17 and 23, and none of them said a word, not even to me. Like if I asked a question directly, they just wouldn't answer. They did not want to speak in front of a stranger, never mind to the stranger. It was completely off the table. So I don't know about that, but I have read in terms of analog things coming back that there is like a subset of younger people now that want to avoid using their phones if they can. Like they'll get a flip phone or they'll leave their phone at home sometimes, which is like crazy to think about. And they'll have a little bag instead of analog things. Like they'll bring their knitting or they'll bring a book or a journal or something. And I love this. It's so wholesome. And they'll just try to spend time kind of digital detoxing every day. So, I mean, this is doesn't exactly relate to talking to strangers, but I like to imagine if I saw somebody knitting on a park bench and I also knitted, which I don't because I don't have that kind of talent, but if I did, I like to imagine you would say something. I don't know if those same kids would start that conversation.
All right, you have me there. Because my youngest absolutely would, and my oldest absolutely would not. So one is 23 years old, one is 19. And I would say that the 19-year-old, I mean, my 19-year-old, when they used to go trick or treating, 5, 6 years old, they would ring the bell, the person would open the door, my kid would walk right into their house. We'd have to pull the kid out of every house in the neighborhood at least once. Um, and that was the same kid who liked to meet dogs by putting his face in their mouth. So he loves talking to strangers and strange dogs. So, I think it's obviously to the person, but then I think, and this is another way to turn this, right? Because what's the show about? The show is about, how do we engage with life and people as we age? It gets hard to meet new people when we're of an age. It also, our skills and practice of doing this ever since like, kids on playground and kids at school or whatever, suddenly that goes away, right? Like you have far fewer reasons to socialize. Do you think we could or should seek out more reasons to socialize? Do you think that that is when I think about the hours in my day, I don't think to myself, geez, I can't wait to go and hang out at a something. I can't even envision me leaving the house to like it's that bowling alone book, right? I cannot envision going out to be social just to be social. But do you think that's coming or no?
First of all, Bowling Alone was such a good book. I read it like 20 years ago at the recommendation of a judge I was working with, and it's exactly it's exactly the issue we're facing right now. So it's kind of like how all the kind of underpinnings of local community, like our society, our community, it's sort of fallen away. So we don't have bowling leagues anymore. We just bowl alone. We don't have like neighborhood block parties a lot. We don't have, people having people over to their house for like book clubs as much, like neighborhood folks over. So it's a whole different world than we used to live in. Used to know everybody on the block. Now you don't know anybody. I'd be hard pressed to name anybody beyond my immediate neighbors. And sometimes you don't even want that. Like my mom used to ask me, "Oh, who's your neighbors? What are they like?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't want to know." When I was living in the South, I was like, the less I know, probably the better, because I doubt that we are ideologically aligned. So that comes up. But the reason that it matters, because I think it does matter, is that we're losing the ability to see other people as people. Like we're losing the ability to connect on all the things we have in common because we just don't talk about them. So all we see are the differences. The only places we interact are online places, and that's dangerous because we're seeing a little sliver of people that they put out online. And some people are more they're kind of like more bombastic or confrontational online than they could be in real life, like facing a person. So, because it's harder, it'd be harder, I think, to say unkind things to someone when you're looking them in the face than if you just type it, into a screen and hit send from your house.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Our good friend the goat says, I'm from a generation where we were warned not to talk to strangers, definitely. But I definitely did that more as I got older. I think 2020s has jump started stranger convos for some time and, stunted it for others. And they also corrected themselves because I was going to throw down because you said Kelly. Let's make introvert social spaces a thing. So I have a real world story about this kind of. I went to an event and I met this person, Lisa Barone, who I really enjoy and think is smart and interesting and cool. I had not realized what I had done, but like physically, as in meeting them, I walked right up to them and kind of, I'm very large and very imposing, and I blocked any possible escape they could have. So I like got kind of in their face, but not like, it wasn't like we were gonna kiss, but I was like, "Hey, I'm so excited to meet you. This is great. Oh man, I can't believe I finally put the face to the name. This is so cool. Good to meet you." And she was like being attacked by my socialness in the moment. And she said later, like she was wrecked for like most of the rest of the day. And I was like, oh no, because I am also introverted. So I think Jonathan's point that, we've got to make, I think it'd be nice if we explain some of the rules. Do you think maybe that might be the way that's going to get us to that? Like it would seem crazy to boomers to write kind of the rules of engagement. But don't you think that if you entered a place and there was just a small, easy to read, nobody's going to make a big deal about it, kind of here's how it might work best for you, wouldn't you think the world would go better in many ways with just a few instructions, kind of like in a video game?
Well, there's a few reasons I think that. One is it's hard to know what someone's gender identity is a lot of the time these days. Never mind like their name. You're not going to know someone's name like magically. I don't know why we think we can magically tell how they identify, but like that's neither here nor there. But so that's like one of the things that it would be helpful to know up front so you don't offend people. I've seen events do a really good job at this. The Marketing Profs B2B Forum is one of them. They have ribbons that you can put on your lanyard that say, high fives only, please, or I'm good with hugging, or, let's shake hands, or let's just wave from across the room. Like it just tells people kind of how close you want to get. And I think that was a COVID era development, but there is more to it than that. So you could have things like that at events, which I do think are going to come back in vogue. Like people are going to want to go to events in person because there's so little genuine interaction happening right now, like with the rise of Sora and AI messaging and AI posting and AI everything. I think people are just feeling like, oh my God, I just want to sit down with a real person and like eat a cheeseburger. So when we have those opportunities again, I think there's room to, at those events, have some signals that people like flair people can put on that's like, I like Star Wars, or I don't like talking to strangers that much, be gentle or something. So that's one thing. Another is I've noticed that people from the South in the US are more receptive to talking to strangers than Northerners are. Like Northerners tend to stay in their little groups that they came with and kind of not talk to anybody else. And it can feel very exclusionary for other people. So anytime I've gone to an event and kind of, I've made a point of kind of looking around the room to see who all's around and who's open to talking to someone they don't know. It's almost always this person from the South. So I ended up having a lot of people in my network that were Southern for that reason. So I guess it's on us, each of us individually, to signal somehow that we are interested in having conversations or not, but also to seek out spaces where we feel comfortable. And I would love if events had lounges that were a little more low key for introverts. I think an introvert space is critical.
Joanne says, by the way, respect for introverts has always been close to ignored by the majority of the more extroverted side of the spectrum. And yes, Kerry, regional cultural issues are a thing too. My saying about keyboard warriors holds strong. They fight everywhere but in real life. And a cheeseburger sounds good right now. Yes, and yes. I'm reading and rereading and rereading via audiobook. There he is. There's your fellow. What was his name again? I'm sorry.
I forgot to upload the file earlier. But that's Willie, and he is a fitness champ. And that's actually at the Blood Lab, so it's like pretty unattractive as photos go. But he was in his 70s, and nobody could believe it because he was in such great shape. So anyhow, he used to go to the lab a lot because he didn't want to take a lot of medications. So they're like, fine, but we're gonna follow your blood work more often. And he was like, okay. So he would do that all the time. Anyway, I just wanted to show you Mr. Attitude. He inspired me to be positive and talk to strangers more because actually good things can happen.
I totally don't remember what I was saying. So I am Southern with Northern sensibilities. I'm an introvert that works at an extroverted job. No, that's for sure. And I think it's, to Joanne's earlier point, the same. This society is set up for extroverted people and or makes introverted people feel bad. And I belong to a subreddit that talks a lot about introvert memes, and one of them is like, let's flip the script the whole time. Let's normalize being quiet instead of jumping in and having conversations with everybody willy-nilly like that. I think that oh, I remember what I was saying. I was reading and rereading The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett, who has that show, Diary of a CEO. He's got a book on it. And one of the lessons he was talking about was that the only way to come to terms with other people who have very different opinions and different ideologies and all that sort of stuff is to start, and the only way is to start by finding your common ground at all. And that someone has to do it, someone has to make the choice, someone has to say, we both love cheeseburgers, and kind of go from there. Otherwise, you'll just never get any further. Now, maybe your opinion to that is, well, then I don't want to get further. That's fine, but it means that everything stays whatever the situation is right now. I think this is also true in these kinds of scenarios where you're meeting strangers. And Joanne would probably attest to this being a military brat, but like whenever I was thrown into a scenario as a kid with a bunch of other kids, we would go through some kind of fast, crazy checklist of like, hey, do you like sports? Yeah, well, kind of. I like to play them. I don't like to watch them. Do you like bands and music? Yeah, what are your bands? And that always got into fights. What kind of shows do you watch? What kind of things do you think are cool? And if you kind of like went rapid fire like that, you could sort of find how you were going to get along. Or you just picked some kind of activity that everyone had some participation in one way or another. We had this, I grew up in a pretty poor neighborhood at first, like not crazy poor, but we were poor. And there was a guy who washed his car every Tuesday, and the water would go rolling down this very long piece of the road and then down into a drain. And we would make dams. And so you couldn't get in a lot of fights with people just for making dams. Jonathan has a comment if you want to check on that.
I really think experiences are going to be increasingly important. I see it at work, and more of these tech-free zones would be great, I think. Yes, I think so too. And I also remember that my father, when he went to a restaurant, he used to travel a lot, so he ate out a lot, like he had to travel for work. He said that one of the best meals he ever had was at a restaurant that had like a traveler's table. So instead of sitting by yourself, if you wanted to and you were open to it and you felt like having a conversation, you could go sit at the traveler's table. So they're all strangers. They're all looking for someone to have dinner with. And they all sat there and just had a great time, like a really fun conversation. And I think that's possible to replicate at events. So it's like, if you want to just sit with who you came with, that's fine. If you want to meet some new people, or if you came by yourself and you're down for it, you could sit at this table because these are all like first time attendees or something on their own. That's worth doing, I think. I've had similar experiences where I went to a new country, for example, just for like, it was like for a weekend. My daughter and I went to Amsterdam, and I booked an experience. It was like a dinner party, but you didn't know anybody else coming. The people who hosted it used to run a B&B, bed and breakfast, and now they do these dinners. So it was all like Amsterdam local kind of cuisine. There was a French couple, a couple from South Africa, the couple that ran it from Amsterdam, and then us. And so it was a really interesting group and an interesting conversation I never would have had if I had not been down for talking with strangers. So, I mean, open up the possibility, help people who are looking to have those conversations at your events, and things will go a lot better. And then next year, they'll be buddies when they show up.
That's something I've done at every event that I've ever attended is I try really hard to open the circle because there's always someone new. There's always someone who feels like they're on the outside, and it's just so easy to feel that way. So a lot of people over the years tell me when I see them again somewhere else or even online, they'll say, I remember you at Blog World Expo, and I was walking by and you yelled my name from like 40 feet away and said, come on over here. And the next thing you know, I was swarmed by a lot of people. And a lot of people have that statement about me. And this isn't like a pat my back story. This is it's a way to, like, if you could do that for enough people, then enough people think of you as that person who, connects. And I think we all should be that person. I think that anyone who can possibly connect people, especially in person like that, makes it wonderful. Oh, have you talked to such and such? They've done or whatever. And I'll tell you a secret. If you're done talking to someone, the best way to get out of the conversation is introduce them to someone new. Have you met Christine? Christine is wonderful. She's going to tell you where she summered, and off you go. So I think that's one of those things.
Couple of things about why talking to strangers is good. I think one thing is we, as a society, have less empathy than we used to. And part of it might be the pandemic. We're all pretty like beat down, even though it's supposed to be over. Like I think it's done something, like we're broken a little bit. So if you talk to other people and get to hear a little bit about their lives, it's empathy. It's like people feel seen. You're mirroring some of what they're talking about, and they suddenly don't feel so alone, which I feel like has to be a good thing. The other is curiosity. So when you get a small piece of information from someone, it can ignite your own curiosity. So you're like, wait a second, I didn't know that was a job. Or hold on a sec, there's still people that do, I don't know, blacksmithing or something, like you have no idea. And you can learn something completely new. I love when I discover that somebody likes some of the same weird things as me. So I had a conversation with someone at work that I normally don't talk to because we were at an event at dinner, and I mentioned something about the Gilded Age or something, and they said, "Oh, there's a show all about the Gilded Age." I'm like, "Sister, I know it." And we talked about the Gilded Age, and I said, "I've got great news for you because they're about to have the new season start." And she's like, "What?" So you can bond over things like that, but not if you never talk about them.
I think it's a great time for us to wrap the show. So, what a great idea, Chris, for ending a conversation. That's yours for free. I'm an Army brat. I had to make friends every 2 to 3 years. I think I missed commenting on that comment. So, there we go.
Man, that's tough.
Every 2 to 3 years is kind of quite the reset feeling. So, I think, one way that you can make friends with strangers is come here and talk to the people in the comments. That's one way. And another way is to, anytime you see us out and about somewhere, make sure you say hello. One of the things I regretted deeply over the years doing shows and events was someone would message me days after the event and say, "Oh, I saw you, but you seemed kind of busy." I'm like, "Great. Now we're thousands of miles away, so we didn't get a chance to chat." Always make sure you say hello. And on that note, oh, LinkedIn user says, what about people who start a conversation and ask too many personal questions and you've tried to redirect? I'm more of you can always say goodbye. You can always be like, "Hey, that's awesome. I gotta go." And if someone's really getting pushy about you don't want to go, you can say, "And I need to go to the bathroom," if that helps you understand why I need to go. Bathroom is the best way out. And as someone who occasionally needs the bathroom in an emergency, I'm very quick to pull that card. Hey, Kerry, I'm just going to see what this button does. Hang on one second.